Well, we're back again, and we're in the process of moving the clamps on the aft stern rail. I wanted to do this off camera because it was something, it was a quick something, and so I wanted to get it out of the way. There was no use in coming out here. It was cold and nasty, and just to set up for however long this clip takes. But one of the things you want to do on the when you're doing any of the rails, and we'll get into this on the side rails more, I've got my adjustable slider gauge here. I measured the thickness of the rail here, the halfway point, and then it came along and slid it along here and put a line in about 3 places. I'll probably drill, well, I may not, I'll be drilling more holes through for the other inner rail. It's epoxied on, gel magicked on. We'll see later when we do it. It just mix up cinnamon in the cups, just out of the tube. It comes out to the one out of the tube without having to have the mixing nozzle on. Mix it up, put it on your wood, and then drag it along with that little toothed applicator tool that you've seen me use. I'll show you that later. But the thing you wanted to do, like I've always said in the plans, stressing in the plans and instructions, make sure that the transom height is higher than the side rails. On the very first boat, I was low, and I had to come in here and shape this down to get it to match. Otherwise, I would have had to filled it up with easy fillet to level it out. The other side came out fine, but when you're putting in the rail, when you're initially clamping it in place, put your straight edge along here. I can't do it too much because there's a little bit of an arc in here, but come out at the end, bring up the end of the rail as high as you can so that this inner edge is right underneath here, because the other rail will come in and butt in. But on my designs, the side rails always overlap the ends of the stern rail in case there's any kind of, like, you're sliding along the dock or whatever, it slides along that outside piece as opposed to trying to come in and possibly rip off the joint here or damage the ends. So got that all down, clamped in place, got Mr. Tajima saw out, and you want to hold it flat against the side of the hull. Let me get back down here again, get a little more action. Okay. And try not to pull inward where the angle will then go too much like this. You want to pull it straight. So when the outside rail comes in and lays up against the transom rail, the outside stern rail, that there's no gap in there. Yeah, oh well, that'll stand out. I'll do the other one on the other side and we'll come back, and then we'll start putting on the side rail. Okay, I've got the rail back on there. It's even though it's been pre-bent for a couple of weeks, it still has a mind of its own. Like on the end here, it's going to take a lot of force to bring it up and clamp it. But I wanted to make certain that I also had enough overlap on the end, and I'll give it a thing on a marking here to make sure that it's correct, and also down here in the center for helping me to get back into the same spot to know that I'm centered one way or the other. Is like we've got our station line cut mark right here. I'll go ahead and put a pencil mark on the top of that one, and then one back here, just as a, I can do most of them. They'll get all sanded or planed off when I get done. That's the other nice thing about having these cut lines in here, that it gives you reference to where you are. And you'll know that since you cut all of these at the same time when they were clamped up while you lofted them, that this mark here is the same exact one as the one on the other side from the transom. They're all indirectly, and we'll use these later, these marks, position our spacer blocks, because on one hole I got a little out of sync there, and they're not quite even with each other, but you really can't tell when you look, unless you look from one side to the other, or to look to see where the Orlock socket is in relationship to the block. So let me go ahead and pull this off. I'll mix up some gel magic and then smear it with the tube, and then we'll come back and start putting multi clamps on it. I'll have to use my bucket up to do this, so we'll be back. You used to be able to get these like vampire fang fittings to go on the end of the Utah tubes, but they don't. I think the Utah company stopped making them, but they're really great. You can also just take the cap off and then squeeze the gel magic out of the tube, and it comes out 2 to 1. We'll put it in a little cup, and then I also went and did a little bit of cleaning, hacksaw and scraper to clean off all the epoxy accumulated. So we get ready to. We'll use it to scrape the epoxy on. So let me go ahead and mix it up. There's no big thing. I mean, you just dab it on and spread it along with this thing till you get a nice even coat from one end to the other. I also added, while it was on the boat, I used a pencil mark here so I didn't get epoxy beyond what I needed to waste, so, or use, so I didn't waste any. So let me go ahead and do this, and then we'll come back on the boat. Let me get the camera set up from when I'm messing around with the clamps. Well, I got my little cup mix here, and I've got all my dead soldiers lined up here. Almost empty. I'm going to have to run down to the store. Hopefully, I should have enough to do this one side. I may have to run to the store, but you just take the cap off and then just squeeze it out of the tube like that. I broke my little fang tooth, so I think I only have this one left, and I will protect it with my life. Because it's handy for making small, just start spreading it out on the, just spreading the news. And get out of the way here, and just take your serrated tooth and start making little windrows. Probably one of these little cups would have been enough. Hopefully. I'll know when I get down here. So whether I'm at the halfway mark or not. You just take some. If you got too much building up on the tool, take it back to where it's. And since there's windrows in here, it's going to squeeze out a little bit. So. And we're going to be clamping quite a bit, or using a lot of clamps. So I'm going to have to mix up some more. We'll come back probably when I'm putting on the rail on the boat. Okay, I've got my my stick all lined up here. And I'll find my matching station cut line here. Some bending and screaming here on the rails side, and I'll stick one on the end here just to hold it up. And again, we've got some extra height on the top right in here, so we're going to go even with the rail here on the side. kind of feel the top of the rail and the side panel as you're going along here. Go ahead and get as many of these heavy clamps on as possible. Normally the rails aren't this much of a problem, but I have a lot of upsweep in it. And get my bucket of clamps. The Colonel may have his bucket of chicken, but I've got my bucket of clamps. Really give these a squeeze. Broke my block. Okay, and now I'm going to come back, and any place I've got a little bit of a gap that's forming, just throw another clamp in there. Had on occasion had to put a sandbag on the other side because I didn't have the boat. Well, this one's not tied down anymore either. But this one's got a flat bottom. I had one, I think it might have been the Granville Bay, started tipping on me from all the weight of the clamps. And if you need clamps before you build, just go on to Ductworks, and in the My Plans section you'll find the drawings that my friend Bob Ellis up in Anchorage made. And where's his clamp? He made me this pretty oak clamp, which I hate getting epoxy because it's so pretty. It shouldn't move now. A lot of times when they get the epoxy on it, they'll slide around when you turn your back. And if you got the clamps, use them. I don't want any gaps forming. Between the face of the rail and the and then take a look down it. If you need another clamp, stick one in. Let me deal with the transom, and we'll show you what I've got when I get done figuring out what I need to do. To get this thing to come in tight, so I smeared Gel Magic on the joint here, and I also just clamped onto this transom and the rail. and then use a spring clamp on the back side of this clamp to the face of the rail, and that's holding it in kind of nice without pushing it too hard. The Gel Magic will fill the gap, so to speak, and so we got that. And also, remember we had the let me tilt up here. We had our original two balls, the brown and the black marble ones. I was able to go down to a place where I knew I could get these black plastic, hard black plastic knobs, and I got one of those things and put a handle on it. And then I happened to notice on my junk tray over by my toolbox, I had some little brass door hot knobs, and so I've got, you know, quite a sizing now of balls for filleting. As you can see, this side has been clamped up. I did it about a day or so after, well, actually 2 days after the other one, and it's secured now. So let me go ahead and get these clamps off. So now you'll see them, and now you don't. So I got all the clamps off now. So I want to take my sliding square and I want to go along where the, I guess I've already done this. I did this before I put the rail on. Then I didn't have to worry about scraping off the schmutz. So you go along where the station cut line mark is, and you go to what the going to be the halfway mark down, and then put a little mark in there. So now I'll go get my drill, and we'll drill a little hole and put in a stainless steel screw in that position. Got a small one out, or a little drill bit with a gauge on it to keep from going too deep. So I want to get up here close to the stern. I got one right in here on the transom outside rail, and I'll put another one in up here close to it. And we'll go down to the first. On this hole I'm putting in number 6 by 1/2 inch because the rails are so thin. Normally I'll go with a thicker rail, thickness this way, but this one was, when I did a test earlier, it was because of the curvature of the shear line. I thought I'd go with thinner just to make it easier to deal with. As you can see, we've got the end sticking out here. So this time I'm going to use my dowel saw to trim the ends off, and just use a finger to hold it in tight. I need to get a new blade because I've used this one a lot. Okay. A little difference in height here, but that's okay. I'll bevel that down later. Let me go ahead and do on the other side. This one has got a little bit of Gel Magic you can see setting down here. So. Take your time, no hurry. Don't want to be splitting out the wood. There we go. Okay. Got a nice cut there. Okay. But this little bit up in here sticking up will flatten out with the plane once we get all the other inner rails in here and we start working on the corners.